What I want to present to you today is a world systems analysis of what is happening at that border. 50,000 people crossing into this city of 83,000 people, maybe more than 50,000. That's what the numbers are saying now. The death toll is rising. The army is now in town. This is a humanitarian crisis, and I'm right here in the middle of it. The core of the world system needs migrants from the periphery. That's why you cannot stop irregular migration. And in the meantime, people are dying.
I'm Dr. Jason Idriss Sparkes, street scholar and poet, exploring visions of the good life and beauty in Islamic contexts with you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm reporting to you today from my home, which is a couple of kilometers away from the border between Morocco and Spain. There's a Spanish exclave, Spanish territory in Africa called Ceuta, which is on the African side, a couple of kilometers away from my home here in Morocco, in the city of Fnideq. And I'm reporting to you here a couple of days after having crossed back into Morocco from Spain through the Ceuta-Fnideq border. And we arrived actually a few hours, before the actual situation that we're seeing today on the news. Those of you who are following the news, the border is once again on the news for all the wrong reasons. This is a beautiful part of the world. I've been filming it for you. What I want to present to you today is a world systems analysis of what is happening at that border. Oh, it's really hot here today. I'm going to take my glasses off. I want to present to you a decolonial world systems analysis of what's happening at that border right now. You're seeing so many dramatic images. 50,000 people crossing into this city of 83,000 people, maybe more than 50,000. That's what the numbers are saying now. The death toll is rising. We're up to maybe 20. It'll be much more because bodies are still in the water, bodies are still not found. May Allah have mercy on us and all of us and give us ease in this world. What is happening at that border? You need to step away for a moment from the politics and the news of the day, which is hard to do right now in the city of Fnideq, which is the first city you get to after you come out of Ceuta. It's been like a war zone. Everything is closed. Half of the city is gone. The employees don't come to work. People have come from all around Morocco to try and make it through the border now. So there's people sleeping on the streets, people begging everywhere. It's like a war zone out there. Nowhere for them to go to the bathroom. All the shops are closed. It's getting tense. We've been hearing ambulances all night and all day for the last couple of days. The army's now in town. The army's in Ceuta right now. Ceuta's 83,000 people population, 50,000 people approximately, maybe more, coming in one day. You can imagine this is a humanitarian crisis. And I'm right here in the middle of it. Alhamdulillah, my apartment is far up. And once you're away from the border, it's mostly safe. You just go out at the right time and stay in the right places, walk down the right streets, and you're okay. But there's a lot of drama, a lot of tragedy. I want to take a step away from all that tragedy and all of that daily drama that we're living right now, this sort of news cycle action. And I want to offer you a long-term world systems, decolonial world systems analysis. The border between Ceuta and Morocco is the border between the core and the periphery of the modern colonial world system as it presents itself in 2026. Spain and Morocco, there's a 10-year difference in life expectancy, for example. Now, when you think of that 10-year difference in life expectancy at birth, that tells you a lot about the life conditions, the material conditions that lead to that difference in life expectancy. Minimum wage, access to good, free, or cheap healthcare, etc. All of the material conditions which make it, right, desirable for people who want to improve their life conditions to cross that border. This is not due to like brilliant governance of the Spanish and bad governance of the Moroccans. I mean, of course, there are internal dynamics and in each country, and there are good policies in Spain and bad policies in Spain, and good policies in Morocco and bad policies in Morocco, and we could look at those policies and how they affect these sort of situations. But it's you know, everywhere in the colonial core, the Western colonial core, everywhere you go, the material life conditions are much better than in the global South, right? The West versus the West. And that's why the modern colonial power dynamics, despite the end of most colonial administrations in Africa and Asia, and we could say Latin America, right, that the colonial power dynamics have continued over the more than half a century after the massive decolonization of these zones of the world, where the countries in Africa and Asia and whatnot gained official sovereignty and independence. Yet the colonial power dynamics are still there. And now here's what I want you to know. Here's a secret that people don't say out loud. Maybe it's not a secret. Maybe it's so obvious that it's overlooked. I'm not talking about some sort of conspiracy. I'm talking about interests. The core of the world system needs migrants from the periphery to perpetuate its standard of living, its quality of life, for a number of reasons. It needs, right, places like Spain, Canada, where I'm from, the United States, Australia, as you wish. We need people to keep on coming in from the global South, right, from the non-West, from the periphery of the global system. We need them to keep coming in for many reasons. One is we don't have enough specialized labor, so we need to have a category of people who come in who are highly qualified, and they come in through proper routes, right, legally, and they're given good conditions, they're given full rights from the beginning, right, and they come in with their passports and their official status, and they start paying taxes, and they will face some Islamophobia or some racism, depending, they might not all be Muslim, but they will face some racism and some structural problems, but they will generally be integrated regularly into the system, and they will have one experience of what it is to live as somebody whose origins are from outside the West, inside the West. That is one, what we might call the model minority. And among those, you'll find people in the West who've converted to Islam, such as myself. When we're in the West, we're also part of that minority, which is, we are a minority and we are marginalized, but we benefit from the conditions of being born in the West, of having, you know, full citizenship rights in a Western country from the beginning. That's one experience. But that's not the only people the core of the system needs. The core of the world system needs a lot of people to come in and do two other things that we haven't mentioned yet. The first is make babies, because in the West, we're not making enough babies. Our, right, population is aging, we're not renewing our population, and without the constant influx of people from the rest of the world into our societies, be it Spain, Canada, the United States, or wherever you go in the Western world, we need more youth, we need more babies. So young people come in, they come in young and ready to work, and they have babies, which helps to renew our population, which gives a basis from which to have enough people paying sales tax. And if once they get their situation regularized and they become permanent residents or citizens, they start paying taxes, right, income tax, and that helps to pay for the services for our seniors. And the percentage of seniors in the Western world is obviously becoming higher and higher. What we also need is we need a population of people who come and do not have full rights. This sounds very tough, but I'm not speaking about some Machiavellian plot. The economy depends on people who will be willing to do jobs that they would not do if they had their full citizenship or residence rights. And why do I say that? Because people who are full citizens or residents, who grow up in our countries, even if they're from minority groups, generally do not accept to do those jobs. Second generation immigrants or children of immigrants, right? People born in the West, people who've been there for a long time, who have their situation regularized, they will not go pick fruit in the south of Spain. They will not go pick fruit in California. They will not go and work on the farms in southern Ontario or in BC or in Quebec for next to nothing wages with very few forms of social or economic protection. They won't do it. They won't, in general, go and spend their lives driving people around in Uber or washing people's different dishes or doing all the jobs that people who live in the country and have their legal status regularized would not do. They would rather just go on welfare, right, on social welfare, or just, figure it out because they've been there for long enough that they'll figure out another way to make a living. We need these people. Without these people, that olive oil and those oranges and all of the fruit and vegetables that you see coming out of Spain, of California, all the vegetables and the milk and the agricultural products you see coming out of Canada, they will become very expensive and they will stop being competitive. Good luck finding all your Uber drivers if you don't have refugees and people coming in who don't know the language yet, who haven't been educated in the country, who don't know how to work their way around the official jobs with the good pension plans and the good, right? I mean, it's hard for the people in the country. Obviously, not everybody in Canada or the states who were born there are living these great lives. But even, I come from Canada, even the urban poor who are born in the country, a lot of them, if you offer them some of these jobs, the people who do not have a regular status, they'll refuse it. They would rather just find another way through their social network, their family network, government programs and whatnot. They'll find another way to survive than to do these jobs. So what I'm saying is, and this is very important, it doesn't even need to be said out loud, because once you understand systems, you understand that intention is one thing, but needs and systemic patterns are more important to look at. The economic system right now requires that people who cannot claim the full rights of residence of legal status in a country, it needs them to be there to be doing the jobs that people who have regular status in those countries refuse to do. So we need one level, which is regular immigration, who comes in and these are our doctors and engineers and all these people who worked really hard and they're the best, right, the elites of the rest of the world. And we bring them in because we have all of these advantages of being in the core of the world system. And then we need a greater number of people coming in who are not as qualified to begin with, but who will gradually go through a system or a process of regularization, and eventually enough of them will regularize their status that they will renew our population, right? Pay taxes and just become citizens of Spain, Canada, England, France, etc. And we need a whole bunch of irregular migrants, people who are afraid to claim their rights. We need them. Without them, a whole bunch of jobs wouldn't get done. This is systemic. Similarly, people in the periphery of the world system desperately need remittances. That means people in Morocco and other parts of the world, they desperately need to have members of their families in the core of the world system sending money back. It's a huge percentage of the economy. I'm telling you, in the COVID period, for example, during the lockdown, people across Morocco, people across the global south in general, were depending on remittances from family members. In other words, family members and friends in the West sending money back to the old country, if you wish, the country in the global periphery. This is no joke. It's a huge part of the economy in places like Morocco. Money coming back, being invested. Here in the city of Fnideq, for example, you should see the number of license plates from Spain and from France and from the Netherlands in the summer. People come in here, they spend their money because they have attachments to the homeland, and they buy property here, just like we have. My wife is Moroccan, we bought property here. We see this as our home. But we come in with money from the outside, and this is good for us, and it's good for the country systemically. So you have this situation in which people say, oh, but it's such a paradox that we need immigrants, but at the same time we need to regulate them, and at the same time it's a shame, but some of them they come in an irregular way and it's chaotic and people die. Yes, this is actually systemically necessary. I'm not saying somebody is in their office planning this stuff. I'm just saying the system depends on the fact that you have this repression, you have this sense of despair, which sends people to risk their lives, to swim across bodies of water, to jump over walls, right? To walk across deserts, to get somewhere exhausted, and just thanking God that they can finally make a few euros or dollars to send back home for their monies, for their mothers or fathers to have a surgery, for their little brother or sister to go to school and pay for their books. You understand what I'm saying? These people are necessary to the working of the system. They are not an aberration. They are not some unfortunate byproduct of the system. They are part of what makes the system perpetuate itself. And they suffer the most. And if you look at it from this way, the left and the right is not, right, an appropriate way to understand it. Right-wing nationalism or left-wing, right, sort of multiculturalism. They're all facing the same facts. At the end of the day, they're all facing the same facts on the ground of what the system requires. That's why you cannot stop irregular migration in this current conditions. You can't stop it because it serves a purpose. And in the meantime, people are dying. In the meantime, half of this beautiful city that I call home, where this is the place where I have my home. This is the place where I have my family photos, and I've invested my money for property. It's the only place I own property in the world. This place I call home, Fnideq, northern Morocco. All of the stores are closed down because of the swarm of people who've come from the rest of Morocco trying to come across. They're afraid. But even the stores who are open, they can't function. We went around looking for lunch and to buy things yesterday, and the few places that were open were functioning very, very slowly because they had lost sometimes 80% of their employees are gone. They crossed over to Spain yesterday. People died. Families here, women with 20 grandchildren. People I know personally, 20 grandchildren, all of whom are gone. None of them still in Morocco. There are places around Morocco and around the global south where you find all of the youth have gone to live somewhere else. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. This is a beautiful country. It has great potential. But for systemic reasons and despite the glorious efforts of the Moroccan government and civil servants and people who go to work every day to try to make the system work, and despite the efforts of people working in Spain, the Red Cross, the social workers, the healthcare workers, the policymakers, despite all of these efforts, these well-intended efforts, the system is what the system is. So we need to start thinking systemically. We also need to start thinking Islamically, but this is something that you'll find perhaps needs an even greater depth. You'll find it in many of my other videos that I've been doing, even recently, and they've been published recently and others will be published soon. I've been filming a lot here on both sides of the Strait of Gibraltar, here in northern Morocco and in southern Spain, to understand the history, the civilization, the cultural ties, the conflicts, the coexistence, the beauty, right, from an Islamic perspective. All of this needs to be considered, and you can see it in my videos. If you're enjoying my explorations of beauty and excellence in Islamic contexts, please feel free to share the love by liking, commenting, sharing your thoughts, subscribing, and of course, offering a prayer. But today I just wanted to, while things are a little bit hot and people are like sort of heated up and emotional. I'm heated up and emotional. I'm heated up and emotional because it's hot and I'm out in surrounded by these windows, and I turned off my fan so you can hear me with my mic. I'm actually literally overheated, but I'm also overheated like everybody else. We know a lot of people personally who crossed over yesterday, very close people who crossed over. We hear the stories of people who came back because they couldn't stand, they couldn't stand psychologically the fact that they had to step on corpses in the water as they were trying to make it through, or they saw little babies floating in the water. It's a tragedy. It hits us emotionally. We cannot look at this and not be emotional, but we need to step back and understand how we got here. If we want to find a way, we need to deconstruct if we are to reconstruct. And of course, as Muslims, the reconstruction needs to be, found through our sense of the good life, beauty in the good life. What is the good life as we see it? How do we understand the good life? What is a beautiful life? What is our reason for being here? We find this in our tradition, in our Islamic tradition, in connection with other people, with their traditions, some of whose interests and understandings of the world necessarily overlap with ours, right? Because if we only deconstruct and critique and get angry and get sad, we miss the whole point of what it is we're trying to perpetuate, what it is we are trying to keep alive, what it is we're trying to, these beautiful families here in Fnideq that are trying to stay connected, to stay together, to continue living with one another, enjoying one another's presence, spread across different continents. Alhamdulillah. May Allah help us. May Allah help the Muslims, and may Allah help all of the children of Sayyidina Adam and Sayyidatna Hawa. Upon them both be peace. All the children of Adam and Eve. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.